Hello, I'm David Breeden. I'm the senior minister at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, a historically humanist congregation. And this is Coffee and Wisdom when we take a humanist perspective on theological questions. I mentioned on Tuesday a headline: Pope Francis says all pets go to heaven. Well, I suspect if I can anthropomorphize this panda, he's volunteering to go to heaven as well. So the Pope just kind of dodges the question that I've been looking at the last couple of weeks, which is the history of Christianity and how it hooks into our understanding of animals. And the Pope didn't say whether or not animals have souls. He was just being reassuring to pet owners. So this really reflects a continuing tension within the Christian mind. One of the new things in the world is robot ethics. We anthropomorphize machines that look like animals and humans, but the question is, are they actually more like toasters? On Tuesday, I had us reflect a little bit. What's the difference between a toaster, a machine, and a pet, a dog? What's the difference between a toaster and a teddy bear that kind of looks like an actual animal but isn't? And then the difference between a toaster and a robot, also a machine but it is made to look like that nice friendly puppy. What's the difference between these? And this continues as a tension, and it's really at the cutting edge of artificial intelligence research at the moment as it hooks into the question of morals and ethics. I mentioned on Tuesday also Hitchbot, a robot, quote unquote. It really didn't have any AI properties, but it was a robot that made to look slightly like it had a personality, and the fact that it was murdered, quote unquote. Um, if you do some web searching on this, you'll find out that there is a Hitchbot 2.0. The hitchhiking robot left for dead on a US street in 2015 is back on stage in France. The victim of the decade's most famous unsolved robot murder has been reincarnated and is finding new audiences in the world of theater. So, yes, Hitchbot rides again and has a smiley face. This is another headline. The Philadelphia man who beheaded a Canadian hitchhiking robot was caught on video. Yes, so uh, what will the authorities do with such a beheading person? Well, that's part of the question, isn't it? Why do we human beings make robots that look like animals? Why? What is the impetus behind that? What is our mental thinking on this for why we would even want to make something that really functions like a toaster into something that looks like an animal? Well, one of the answers is that anthropomorphizing thing. This is a cartoon from the Second World War in which a tech sergeant is sadly shooting his Jeep that is defunct. It says cavalry there on the side of the Jeep, and it is a little reminder or memory of where the cavalry came from, shooting horses when they had broken a leg. When you break an axle on a Jeep, no, you don't have to shoot it. But we do anthropomorphize our cars and planes and that kind of thing. We give them human names. The leading researcher in this idea of what artificial intelligence and robotics and animals have in common and don't is Dr. Kate Darling. Her book, The New Breed: What Our History with Animals Reveals About Our Future with Robots, is cutting edge technology in this question. She is a professor at MIT, so she is watching as these new cutting edge AI things happen. And really, where she's going with this is the mental picture we have of robotics and AI. We do see it as an evolution from machine to human qualities. And we are, in some ways, taught to be afraid by popular culture that the way we have treated animals will eventually be the way that robots treat us. And all the way back, some of the earliest films made were about robots taking over from human beings. That fear has been around for a very long time. Dr. Darling says this: our belief that robots can and should replace us obscures the massive potential of making robotics and AI supplemental. So, our actual false thinking about robotics is creating a situation in which we are afraid of them rather than using them as their real potential. Nothing, I think, reflects this better than the fact of making a bionic kangaroo. Why would we want to do that? What kind of machine do we need that would work like a kangaroo? We could say, well, yes, but the technology develops by doing this kind of thing. But again, it's thinking that has animals behind it. Dr. Darling says understanding the strengths and limitations of robotics and AI helps us resist the current trend to apply this technology everywhere. She thinks that our actual fear of robots taking over and taking our jobs is driving the decisions that really don't need to be made. There is a magazine called Frontiers in Artificial Intelligence, AI for Human Learning and Behavior Change, which deals with exactly these questions. Uh, in an article in that magazine, it says this: in general, digital reasoning and problem solving agents only compare very superficially to their biological counterparts. Keeping that in mind, it becomes more and more important that human professionals working with advanced AI systems, the military, policymaking teams, etc., develop a proper mental model about the different cognitive capacities of AI systems in relation to human cognition. This issue will become increasingly relevant when AI systems become more advanced and are deployed with higher degrees of autonomy, when they are expected to make decisions, in other words. The article goes on to say develop a proper mental model about the different cognitive capacities of AI systems in relation to human cognition. Again, research shows that we don't make this distinction, and that failure to make the distinction is a real problem. So, we have some new categories and definitions to think about as we go into our future with robotics and artificial intelligence. One is the difference between artificial intelligence and biological intelligence, and a new idea and definition of artificial general intelligence versus just artificial intelligence. Artificial general intelligence, meaning that the AI becomes more and more human like in the way that it is thinking, at least again, as we human beings perceive the AI to be thinking, quote unquote. From the article, three essential notions that can and should be further elaborated in the near future. One, with regard to cognitive tasks, we are probably less smart than we think. So, why should we vigorously focus on human like AGI? Again, artificial general intelligence. We actually don't make as many decisions as we think we do. We actually are very often on autopilot, and we aren't as smart as we think. So, why are we trying to mirror our thinking in artificial intelligence? Good question. Many different forms of intelligence are possible, and general intelligence is therefore not necessarily the same as humanoid general intelligence. So, again, we have different kinds of intelligence going on here. Why are we trying to pursue only one? And AGI is often not necessary. Many complex problems can also be tackled effectively using multiple narrow AIs. Why are we going full into trying to develop a human like artificial intelligence when really that's redundant in many uses of AI? They go on to say, no matter how intelligent and autonomous AI agents become in certain respects, at least for the foreseeable future, they probably will remain unconscious machines or special purpose devices that support humans in specific complex tasks. As digital machines, they are equipped with a completely different op system, digital versus biological, and with correspondingly different cognitive qualities and abilities than biological creatures like humans and other animals. Again, why are we trying to get at this consciousness that we understand in our artificial intelligence? And so we now have a better way of defining things as the little puppy in the toaster idea, artificial and biological. These two things are different. Yes, crows are very smart. They can even problem solve in order to get themselves some potato chips by dumping over the bag. But then the question is, what are the smartest animals in the world? This is a very interesting question, and I would invite you to do some web searching on this because you're going to find a lot of different lists with very different animals on them. Because what do we mean by intelligence? A very good book on this is Other Minds: The Octopus, the Sea, and the Deep Origins of Consciousness by Peter Godfrey Smith. You probably know that only recently have we begun to think of octopuses as animals that have a very high intelligence level because we didn't understand their intelligence. We were defining intelligence in a different manner. Well, thanks for listening this week. Next, I'm going to look at animals again and our human future, talking about what do we do now in a world in which we have species going extinct every day. Thanks so much for listening this week. I will see you next week. And remember, anytime you have questions, you can email me, minister@firstunitarian.org. Thanks a lot for listening today.